Shalom, brothers and sisters. The name of this tape is Israelites Are in the UFOs. That's one of the big secrets in America and all over the earth, that the UFOs are really the chariots of the Most High from the Bible. Now they have an interview that I'm going to play from two Israelite women who were taken up in the UFO, and they're going to say what they've seen.
Tell me about Mars. What happened?
Okay. Mars, very, very interesting experience. It occurred, first of all, in October of 1996. I was visited by some entities who looked very human. And by the way, many of my experiences, I'm interacting with human-looking beings.
Okay.
There were about, I'd say 3 women that came into my room and escorted me out. Now, some of my travel is not always in a ship. Sometimes it's projection, astral projection, whereby my astral body is leaving the physical body behind. But I felt as though I was being astrally pulled out. And then what I believe occurs is I dematerialize and rematerialize physically in another location. So that's the impression I was having, or actual experience I was having with the Mars experience. I was spiritually pulled out and then physically rematerialized once on the planet. But however, in this process, I went through what felt like a tunnel to get to. I didn't take a ship. I was thrust through a black tunnel, so to speak, similar to the afterlife experiences you've heard about and read about. So after going through that, I was suddenly found myself in a laboratory setting. And I was, again, rematerialized. I felt physical. I felt very much in that whole environment of physicality, because I was being examined. Quite often I'm being examined in these experiences. Heart and lungs and chest and all of those things, blood pressure and all of those things. And so I found myself in a laboratory, hospital-like setting, and I was interacting with beings that composed of all different races, Caucasian and African American, not African, at least black anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So
Not African.
Anyway, I was being experimented on, and I decided I'm going to try to strike up a conversation with these entities, because that's what you do when you're meeting with people you don't know. You try to make small talk. So I thought about what on earth could I think to talk about to these beings. So I remembered that a rock had been found in I think it was Antarctica. And on this rock were small microorganisms that...
Right. The meteorite.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that proved to our scientists, that was a big exciting news. And that proved to our scientists that life could have existed millions and millions of years ago. So I remember that story, and I decided to share it with this individual who was a Caucasian male who was examining me. So I shared this whole story with him. He didn't say very much. He didn't respond or react that it was, great, big, exciting news that I thought it was anyway. And he simply responded, "We are well aware of your findings." And that was it. It's almost like that's no big deal. And then when I thought about it, it may have looked a little bit ridiculous that I was sharing with him, we found a rock with microorganisms on it, which proved that life could have existed millions of years ago, when already I'm on the planet.
The Caucasian-looking alien beings are servants on these ships.
So do you think there are occupants on Mars right now?
Yes, I do. And I interacted with them. So that's what was occurring at this time. So this individual, he guided me to a computerized map on the wall. And he showed me terrain, mountains, and landscapes, and areas that were occupied. And he pointed one up, and I tried to remember the names of them. The only one I could commit to my memory was a place called U. Why U? And he was saying that basically it was a map like we have of Earth, except it was Mars. And yes, it's inhabited, and yes, there are people in this area, there's people in that area, there's areas are named, and U was the only one I could recall or remember. And then I was, in that experience, my whole conversation was overheard by another individual who joined the conversation, and she was a black female. And she came out, and I really decided I couldn't comprehend this information. I couldn't really digest it. I wasn't certain how to react to the information that he told me after that, which was that Mars is predominantly black. And I couldn't comprehend that. I couldn't understand that. Mars is predominantly black. And so another woman enters the room who had overheard the conversation, and she reiterated, Mars is predominantly black. And again, I couldn't understand that. I couldn't understand why she's telling me this. What does that mean? I just basically wanted to keep changing the subject. But they were telling me that this planet was occupied predominantly by black people. And they looked at me as though, don't you know this? Don't you remember?
See, Israelites are great people.
We can't call it the red planet anymore.
No. Matter of fact, I didn't see any red.
And here's a book here called Alien Chronicles. Compelling evidence for UFOs and extraterrestrial encounters. Art and text since ancient times. This is what they found on the walls in Egypt.